parents benefit because they put up the money to see the film made, and in return they get a copy of the film to watch. And the director benefits because the director owns all rights to the film, has complete creative control, can make whatever film they want. There's no studio, there's no finance, there's no financial investor to crimp their style, whatever, and they capture all the economics of that project. So it's a pretty compelling model, and I think we've really just scratched the surface of what a company like Kickstarter could do.
We've seen, I guess, sort of an explosion of social bookmarkers like Pinterest and Supply. What do you think about the future of that space and monetizing that?
I haven't thought a ton about the monetization piece of that space. We invested in one of the real sort of pioneers in the social bookmarking space back in 2005 called Delicious, and they sold out to Yahoo pretty quickly, and it was link bookmarking, not image bookmarking. I think it's a really powerful model that people want to save things that they like on the web. In the case of Delicious, people are saving links that they found that they wanted to remember. And I think particularly Pinterest with the service they've created, people want to save visual images that they find on the internet. And I think the use cases are actually pretty broad. Some people just do it as a way to kind of, share the things that they find with their friends. My wife uses it, in a much more kind of project basis. Like if she's doing a design project for, like, my son went from being a preteen to being a teenage boy, and all of a sudden the room that he was living in wasn't working for him anymore. So he said, "Mom, I want to have like a teenage boy's room, right?" So she and my son just basically started taking stuff and slapping it onto Pinterest and like sharing, thoughts, and that's the way they use it. So I think Pinterest is the kind of the winner in that category, in the same way that sort of Facebook was the winner in its category and Twitter was the winner in its category, and I think Pinterest is in my mind, is the winner in that category. And people tell me, well, guys won't use Pinterest, they'll want to use their own site, for like guys' clothing, but I don't think that's true. I think people just all use Pinterest.
Do you think secondary trading platforms like Second Market will catch on enough to change the way you invest in companies or the way you exit companies?
The problem is, I think for the investors, platforms like that are amazing because it allows the investor to find opportunities to invest in companies that are still private. It also allows investors who have been investors in those companies to get liquidity. So I think for investors, those platforms are great. For the companies themselves, they're not so great. Private companies, one of the reasons that private companies are private is that they want to control who their shareholders are. And they don't, all the companies that I work with don't want their stock holdings to be traded in a private secondary market or in a public market. So I think the jury is out on that whole notion. I think the company-controlled secondary transactions, I think, is a great model. So if Facebook decides that they're not going to go public for 2 or 3 more years, and so they want to create an opportunity for some of their early employees and early angel investors to get some liquidity, and they go find some Russian gazillionaire to come in and do an arranged secondary transaction, everybody wins in that model. Facebook gets to pick who the new investor is going to be. They figure out what the valuation is going to be, and then the shares trades hands. So I think that's a better model than these kind of open markets.
The majority of us here are in programs that are pretty traditional and whose curriculums and models haven't changed in a long time. and not particularly well suited to growth areas or innovative areas of the economy. So how do we take the platforms that we're in and make ourselves relevant, learn relevant skills, and maybe make that transition over into something that is more entrepreneurial?
Well, it kind of goes back to my early comments. I think that talented people are valuable in the startup world. And it maybe isn't so much that you have a law degree or you have a business degree. I mean, people will value that, but what they'll really value is who you are and what your skills are and the kind of things you want to do and the kinds of people you want to work with. So my advice is this program is great because it provides those connection points to go actually meet people in the startup community and work with them and get to know each other over a project. That's how you're going to make yourself relevant to those companies is to get out and show them that you can actually help them. So the degree won't be necessarily as big of a deal in the startup community, but what you can do is critical. And so as long as they can see that you can make a difference for their company, that's going to be important. I'll take two more questions.
Oh, so I'm just wondering, I saw on your blog the other day that you were going to be doing some, writing some about corporate governance, and I was just kind of wondering where you were going with that, and obviously you sat on a lot of boards. I mean, is that an area where you think there should be law change, public policy change to encourage new types of corporate governance? What are your thoughts?
No, I wasn't. I actually think that the notion of a board and what its responsibilities are to a company is very well conceived, and I think the traditional views of corporate governance and that system works very well. What I'm trying to do with that series of blog posts is to talk about try to share what I've learned over the years in terms of best practices with entrepreneurs, how to construct boards, how to evolve boards. A great example is how do you fire a board member, right? I mean, that's not it's not an obvious thing. Most people wouldn't even know where to start on how to fire a board member. I've been fired, so I know how to get fired. So it's more just kind of a lot of what I try to do on my blog is just to try to share things that I've learned over the years, particularly about areas that people see as very kind of hidden, from public view. And I think boards are one example of that. So that's what I'm trying to do with that.
I'm very curious about Bug Labs, and I was wondering what you